Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be jazz. I'm watching. Daily, Osinachi. I'm no qua, Osinachi. One lemon, Osinachi. I'm watching. Daily, Osinachi. Mama, Osinachi. Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be jazz. I'm watching. Daily, Osinachi. I'm no qua, Osinachi. One lemon, Osinachi. I'm watching. Daily, Osinachi. Mama, Osinachi.
Your lele, I want my game. kéré o, wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa, àwọn ọmọdé wọ̀nyí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I'm watching. Daily, Osinachi, I'm no qua, Osinachi. One man, Osinachi, I'm watching. Daily, Osinachi, Mama, Osinachi.
Good evening and welcome to this evening section. Please give us 2 more minutes. We're waiting for the chair to join, please. The chair is here now. We're happy to have you all. Please enjoy the evening.
Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, please turn on your video for a group photo, please. Everybody, please. Thank you. Please, you have to mute yourself until it's your turn to talk. And the chair, Akindele Okpeyemi, please, we're waiting for you. Thank you.
Okay. I'm expecting my video to be on, and I've done that.
Your video is on now, but we can't see your face, sir. I think it's really dark where you are. If there's light around, or maybe we can just go ahead like that.
No, there is light actually. Okay. So I don't know if you can see me now.
We can see you now. It's much better. Thank you very much.
It's much better. Okay. All right. So I welcome everyone once again to this panel. Akindele Okpeyemi is my name. Now this section has been titled The Nigerian Public Health Sector. And we have 4 topics. The first is broken homes as correlates of mental health and academic performance of adolescents in Southwest Nigeria. And that will be handled by Jane Sharon Akinyemi of the University of Lagos. The second session is the African COVID-19 Anomaly, a dialogue with African reality by Tolulope Oshayomi of the University of Ibadan and Lawrence Enejeta Apoterai of University of Ilorin. The third topic is titled COVID-19, Face Mask and the New Dress Order by Luadara Fakunle of the Osun State University. And the fourth is Social Burden of Women Living with Uterine Fibroid by Ayola Fakunmoju of the University of Ibadan. So I'll give the floor to Jane Sharon Akinyemi to speak on the paper titled Broken Homes as Correlate of Mental Health and Academic Performance of Adolescents in Southwest Nigeria. You have up to 15 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, sorry, my camera is faulty, but let me just go ahead. I'm Dr. Jade Sharon Akinyemi. So hello everyone from the University of Lagos. I'm presenting a study titled Broken Homes as Correlates of Mental Health and Academic Performance of Adolescents in Southwest Nigeria. One of the major responsibilities of parents is to lay a solid foundation that will impact on their children's well-being, socially, mentally, spiritually, and intellectually. The best form of training that can influence academic performance of a child is expected to come from the home. An ideal home consists of the father, mother, and children without separation or divorce. Without separation or divorce. Sorry, I'm trying to share my slide. An ideal home consists of the father, the mother, and children without separation, divorce, death of one or both parents, maladjustment, the cessation of single parenthood, in order to breed peaceful coexistence and understanding. The relationship between couples must be cordial. The absence of this breeds instability and frustration in children, which leads to broken homes. Hence, broken homes exist when children are left to their own ideas and solutions due to lack of care, affection, and controlled by parents. The period of adolescence is between two extremes in the continuum of human growth and developmental stages, childhood and adulthood. It often puts the youngster in dilemma of how to meet the society's expectation, how to also cope with adolescents in Nigerian schools, demands a thorough understanding of the peculiarities of this age group, which according to Omorui 2014 is an era of identity crisis when the young person begins to ask such questions as who am I, where am I, and all sorts of questions begins to come. Now, multiple factors affect mental health. The more risk factors adolescents are exposed to, the greater the potential impact on their mental health. Factors that can contribute to stress during adolescence include exposure to adversity, pressure to conform with peers, and exploration of identity. Adolescence is a unique and formative time. Physical, emotional, and social changes, including exposure to poverty, abuse, or violence, can make adolescents vulnerable to mental health problems. Protecting adolescents from adversity promoting emotional learning and physiological well-being, and ensuring access to mental health care are critical for their health and well-being during adolescence and adulthood. Adolescents with mental health conditions are particularly vulnerable to social exclusions, discriminations, stigma that are affecting readiness to seek for help at times. They have educational difficulties, they have risk-taking behaviors, they are physically ill at times, and all sorts of violations go on at that stage of their lives. According to World Health Organization 2019 fact sheet, 1 in 7 10 to 19-year-old experiences a mental health disorder, accounting for 13% of the global burden of disease in this age group. Emotional and behavioral disorders are among the leading cause of illness and disability among adolescents. Suicide is the 4th leading cause of death among 15 to 19-year-olds. Now, mental health determinants are the emotional disorders and behavioral disorders. The emotional disorders are common among adolescents. Anxiety disorder, which may involve panic or excessive worry, are the most prevalent in this age group and are more common among older than among younger adolescents. It's estimated that 3.6% of 10 to 14-year-olds and 4.6% of 15 to 19-year-olds experience an anxiety disorder. Depression is estimated to occur among 1.1% of adolescents aged 10 to 14 years and 2.8% of 15 to 19-year-olds. Depression and anxiety share some of the same symptoms, including rapid and unexpected changes in mood. Anxiety and depressive disorders can profoundly affect school attendance and school work. Social withdrawal can exacerbate isolation and loneliness. Depression can also lead to suicide. Now, behavioral disorders are more common among younger adolescents than older adolescents. Attention deficit hyperactive disorder, ADHD, characterized by difficulty paying attention, excessive activity, and acting without regard to consequences, occur among 3.1% of 10 to 14-year-olds and 2.4% of 15 to 19-year-olds. Conduct disorder involving symptoms of destructive or challenging behavior occurs among 3.6% of 10 to 14-year-olds and 2.4% of 15 to 19-year-olds. Behavioral disorder can affect adolescent education, and conduct disorder may result in criminal behavior. A person with ADHD has multiple problems. These problems can be categorized in 2 groups. One group is about inattention and concentration problems, and the other group is about hyperactive and impulsivity. That's according to Hartman 2021. Now, these are polls. They were conducted to certain words that are associated with depression, anxiety, and ADHD. So the bigger the word, the more people mentioned it. The problem of the study. The home lays the bedrock of development of a child in all stages of life, and it has a greater impact on how they behave in the society. On the rise at present are crisis-ridden homes, especially between couples, owing to situations of incompatibility caused by misconception, misunderstanding, suspicion, etc. Adolescents from broken homes engage in risky behaviors due to lack of guidance and affection from home, which makes them to be less effective among their peers, in school and in the society at large. The teachers during this study, the teachers commonly described adolescents from broken homes as having mental health disorders, such as depressive moods, yes, and the anxiety, concentration problems, because they cannot think clearly and they struggle to keep their mind on school work. excessive activity and acting without regard sometimes, without regarding the consequences. They often feel very bad about themselves, less worthy than others, and guilty without a good reason, which could lead to poor academic performance. Poor academic performance. Thus, the problem of this study is to investigate the relationship between broken home and mental health on academic performance of adolescents. The objective of this study is to determine the reason for broken homes in the society, and then also to investigate the relationship between broken homes and emotional stroke, behavioral disorder on academic performance of adolescents. The research hypothesis: there is no significant relationship between broken homes and emotional disorder, stroke, behavioral disorder on academic performance of adolescents in secondary school. Methodology: the study relied on descriptive survey and interviews that were distributed to respondents. The population consists of all students of JSS 1 to SS 3 between the age of 11 to 18 years from 6 government-owned secondary schools in Ogun State Central District. 300 students were purposely selected, and a summary of self-structured validated questionnaire of 4-point Likert scale showed that 240 usable samples were completed. The questionnaire also addressed demographic characteristics of the respondents and the relationship between broken homes and mental health on students' performance. Purposive sampling technique was adopted in this study because it was carried out in schools where there were also children that are not from broken homes. Descriptive statistics of percentage were used to analyze the demographics, while person-moment correlation analysis was adopted to analyze the correlation between broken home, mental health, and academic performance. The significance level was set at 0.5. Results: the demographics. We have 65% of 11 to 14 years old. We have 35% of 15 to 18 years old. 55% were female and 45% were male. All stated null hypotheses were rejected. This implies that there is significant relationship between broken home and emotional stroke behavioral disorder on academic performance of the secondary school students investigated. Also, that students from broken homes are most likely to drop out of school due to unstable mental health that may lead to poor academic performance than those from stable homes. In conclusion, the study has been able to establish that broken homes have adverse effect on adolescents' academic performance and the needs for parents to live and stay together to raise children that are emotionally, academically, and socially sound and stable cannot be overemphasized. Also, when teachers pay attention and adequately respond to emotional and behavioral needs of their students, it will help ameliorate mental health disorders. Some of the students confirmed that the prevalence of broken home in the society could be attributed to cases of lack in finance, infidelity, absentee parenting, and inattentiveness due to excessive workload that parents have to deal with at workplace. Recommendations: parents should be more enlightened on the need to endeavor to stay together in harmony as husband and wife in order to discourage poor mental health, poor academic performance, and eventual school dropout of their worlds. And then pupils from separated or divorced parents should be encouraged and given all support to enhance their academic performance, irrespective of gender, through counseling intervention. The school authorities should also intensify efforts. School authorities should intensify efforts to study individual students that is enrolled in schools and seek knowledge about his or her family background so that those with special needs are identified as soon as possible in order to design counseling programs that will facilitate the academic activities. Contribution to knowledge. This study had attempted to provide empirical research findings on the relationship between broken homes and mental health on student academic performance. It also complements government efforts in reducing rates of broken homes among families in the society. Also, counselors, teachers, educational administrators, policymakers, curriculum developers, and other stakeholders will find this work indispensable. Reference is according to the APA 7th edition format. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharon Akinyemi. If you have questions, you can put your questions in the chat. We'll take the questions after we are through with the presentation. So we move on straight to the second presenter, and that is Tolulope Oshayomi. Topic is the African COVID-19 anomaly, a dialogue with African reality. So please unmute yourself and let's have your
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. I would like to ask Dr. Sharon to stop sharing her slides so I can share mine.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Dr. Sharon.
All right, thank you.
Okay, good.
I hope you can see my slide.
Yes.
All right, good. Good evening, everyone. The title of our presentation is African COVID-19 Anomaly, a dialogue with African reality. It's a work in progress. I just want to say that this is just some reflections on the COVID-19 pandemic in Africa, and we would welcome your suggestions at the end of this presentation. As you're all aware that the COVID-19 pandemic was the worst public health crisis of the century, and for many of us, it was a world changer. And one striking thing about the pandemic was that it pointed out the fault lines in human society. At the outset of the pandemic, the UN Economic Commission for Africa estimated that 1 billion people on the continent of Africa would be infected, and also 3.3 million deaths would be associated if nothing was done to stop or to contain the spread of the infection. And as you all know, there's this popular view of the continent to be a highly troubled and impoverished continent. So there were a lot of concerning Africa and that the worst might come. But to the surprise of the whole world, it turned out that Africa had the least number of infections and deaths among the continents. And this occurrence has been characterized to be known as the African COVID-19 anomaly, with reference to Opong 2021. So our presentation actually tries to tell the story of how a casual geographic puzzle has, suddenly evolved into one of the mysteries of this pandemic. And our objective in this presentation is twofold. One is to identify the current and emerging perspectives to understand what are the possible explanations for this anomaly, and then also to see what's the paradox has to say about African realities, and in turn, what Africa and Africans in turn have to say about this anomaly. Here we have the global distribution of COVID-19. As I earlier mentioned, you would see that Africa is the least affected, and you find out that other parts of the world, such as Europe and America, had the largest concentration of COVID-19 cases and also deaths. We are all aware that the virus first emerged in Wuhan, China, but it first landed in Africa on the 14th of February 2020 in Egypt, to be precise. And within 4 months, the entire continent had been being reached by the virus, the last being Lesotho on the 13th of May 2020. You and I know that there have been a lot of misrepresentations about Africa, seen to be poor, sick, marginalized, and at war with itself. And the world is often accustomed to the popular view that it's a stagnant and a highly troubled and problematic continent. And as you can see, the representations in the media, in the print media, and oftentimes it's been associated with Africa is always going to be a continent with high disease burdens, lots of wars and conflicts, and also widespread corruption. The current geographical distribution of COVID-19 is that you would see that if you look at the map on the right left-hand side of your screen, you will see that South Africa is currently the hotspot, an infection hotspot for the continent. And it's to our surprise that despite the fact that South Africa has superior healthcare systems, why is it a hotspot for COVID-19? In the wake of the pandemic, we would all recall that it was suggested by a group of French scientists that Africa should be a vaccine trial ground. And of course, that received a lot of outrage from the media and also from so many millions of people on the continent of Africa, with the hashtag, Africa is not a testing ground. It's not a testing lab, and they should not take Africans as people as guinea pigs. That is a quote from Didier Drogba, the ex-football international. Now, why was Africa spared? A conflict of perspectives. There are quite a number of perspectives that account for this puzzle, and I will just share a few, given the little time I have left. The first is that Africa is blessed with a very youthful population. According to estimates, it's said that Africa has more than 22%. More than 22% of its population is constitutes the youths. And of course, the youth clinical evidence had shown that the youth are largely asymptomatic carriers of the infection. So they don't present symptoms, but they have the capacity to spread the infection to other vulnerable people. And the second perspective says that Africa has a history of epidemic outbreaks, and also they were able to effectively contain these diseases. Africa has this previous experience with Ebola and HIV, and over the years they've been able to adequately equip themselves, and also in a way has actually boosted the immunity of the population. So as a matter of fact, in the year 2020, the Ugandan health minister at the time had said that if COVID comes, that the continent, their country was well repaired because of its antecedents with Ebola and also other infections. And also besides that, the previous history, lockdown measures were also they were timely, and also early and comprehensive testing was done as quickly as possible to flatten the curve. And an example can be cited in South Africa. Then we also have the issue of timely leadership. Because as soon as the virus landed in Africa, a meeting of African health ministers was organized by the African Union, and immediately a COVID-19 outbreak strategy was reached, and that served as very, very effective guide to contain the infection. I will skip this and then move to tropical climate. The initial theorization was that COVID-19 would not visit the continent because Africa generally enjoys a high temperature and high rainfall all year round. So a warmer climate could, in a very, very large way, largely serve as a shield against the virus. One other perspective which you might find very, very interesting is the grace of God hypothesis. And this can be largely attributed to the late Tanzanian president, John Magufuli, who had declared his country to be COVID-19 free because due to the grace of God. And here we have a quote. And of course, you and I know that Africans are according to John Mbiti, 1961, are largely or notoriously religious. Of course, another thing is that due to myths and misconceptions, some parts of Africa, or in many parts of Africa, COVID-19 was said to be seen as an affliction of Westerners and wealthy travelers, not the majority of Africans. But despite all these misconceptions, we did see that prominent African leaders such as Jerry Rawlings of Ghana and even Magufuli of Tanzania died as a result of the disease. Then also, we will all recall that there was a post by BBC Africa theorizing that poverty could be a vaccine against COVID-19. And of course, that met a lot of outrage from the public on the social media. BBC was forced to retract that article. Then also we have the local medicine options. You could see the COVID organics being displayed by the president of Madagascar. And then the governor of the state in which I live in Nigeria had, shared a testimonial of how he was cured of COVID-19 by consuming black seeds. After sharing all of these perspectives, what are the interpretations? Indeed, we could see that this is a mystery and there's no single explanation for this phenomenon. But at the same time, none of these perspectives can claim supremacy in the explanation of this mystery. And it's also possible that more perspectives could emerge in the months to come or much later. But we do agree that it's actually filled, like we see amongst ourselves that it's filled with mixed reactions. And there are we do know that Africa has a lot of developmental challenges. But the unfortunate thing is that the world is accustomed to the negative stereotypes that always comes from it. So we're trying to say that, is it that can't something good actually come out from Africa? And then also, could we say that this anomaly is pointing to the fact that the Black man is resistant to the virus? And also, could we also see that as what we call as an African optimism or arrogance? And in all of this too, we can see that there's resilience in adversity, stemming from the explanation, the perspective on what do you call it now? The previous histories of epidemics and so on. And in all of that, we can also see the spirit of innovation from also based on the local medicine therapies that were advertised. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. It was quite engaging. I'll move on to the next presenter. Still COVID-19 related, that's COVID-19 face mask and the new dress order by Oluwadara Fakunle of Osun State University. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Actually, I sent a pre-recorded presentation for my presentation to be not the same. I just hope it's going to be okay. My topic again is COVID-19 face mask and the new dress order. Actually, what I'm trying to in this work, my name once again is Fakunle Oluwadara from the Department of History, Osun State University. What I'm considering is actually not health related, but somehow when it has COVID-19 in it, then we'll begin to imagine what exactly am I going to talk about. Yes, I intend to look at the socioeconomic effect of COVID-19 on the day-to-day activities of people in Nigeria, most especially Osun State, Osogbo, Nigeria. And through ethnographic field work in Osun State, Southwest Nigeria, this study tends to discuss the new order of face or nose mask as an additional dress accessory, which was introduced with the emergence of the COVID-19 epidemic. I'm trying to look at, okay, How does COVID-19 affect the way of dress of the people? Now, with the emergence of the disease, there was an additional accessories. The reason why I call it accessories is that actually before, normally people no longer dress to cover nudity. That is a known fact. People now dress, although to cover nudity in some aspect, but rather to look fine or to follow the trend that is going on around them through through nose masks and I mean through the social media, TikTok, Facebook, and the rest. So people prefer to wear clothes that will attract rather than to cover themselves. Now, talking about bringing in nose masks now or face masks, we can see the extent at which people has gone wild in using whether the nose mask or the face mask as a fashion accessories. Now I will clarify that. The people are not concerned with, at first it started with, okay, I don't want to contact the virus. People cover their nose just not to contact the virus. But later on, it's now moved to I want to wear a matching nose mask with my footwear. Even before the matching nose mask, people wanted to order for nose mask, and an imported nose mask. I can remember, in fact, I'm a very living example of that. I can remember I had to order from which one online online seller like that to send me a nose mask with a hole around it, just to look unique, just to let people know that I am not using the usual nose mask. Actually, the use of nose masks does not start with the COVID-19 epidemic. People have been using nose masks, but they are limited. Like people who work in industries, people who work in the hospitals, and the rest of it, or those people that are dealing with toxic chemicals or any kind of harmful chemicals. So they use nose masks to cover themselves from inhaling what they are not supposed to inhale. Now, with the epidemic now, everybody were forced to use the nose mask or the face mask. Now people go on to buy the transparent nose mask to show their level of wealth, probably their level of wealth, or to show their fashion, how fashionable they are, and also with a matching outfit, even a matching shoe. And even politicians, or based on this research, this work, I've conducted interviews for people in banks, corporate workers, civil servants, traders, even those that are selling it, just to know the impact of this on the budget of the people, of the nose mask or face mask on the budget of the people. How are people spending on getting a nose mask? Is it an additional burden on their finances, or is just something that they have turned to become they have turned to be a part of their daily activities, that they no longer care about it, with the usual trend of spending so much on fashion, specifically on dress? The new use of nose masks or mask, whether nose or face, becomes admitted into the Osun people budget for fashion, and as well currently added to the trending fashion of the people. This article with the qualitative research, that is the distribution of questionnaire as well as oral interview, have been able to get some responses based on the new dress order that COVID-19 brought along with it. And some of the responses I will just mention them, like asking them the types of nose masks or face masks that are trending. And some mention the cotton, some mention elastic, some mention the surgical, some mention the medical, some mention the sewn one, and disposable one, and the rest of it. While there are also responses on the differences in these nose mask, the size, the shapes, those ones that has that are transparent, and the rest of them. Then the effect of it on the budget of the people. Some do, most especially those that sells this nose mask, were saying that it helps a lot of them. Like for them, some of them for that period, they were depending because of the lockdown, they were depending on the selling of this particular nose mask. Some of these tailors that they sell it to people around, and then that was what they were depending on during the period of the COVID-19, the lockdown. And yeah, and some said it aided the support of our family a lot, that she cannot even remember, while others said that it does not even have any effect, because is it just buying the 100 naira nose mask? In fact, I can even purchase, even if it is more than that, even if it is 1,000 naira and the rest. So all these things are what this work is trying to look at. This paper interrogates the vital issues that are surrounding the use of face and nose masks, and the effect of these nose and face masks on the people's economy, that's the budget, as well as the people's social life. How have they been able to attach this or add it to part of their dressing, and how does it make them fashionable? Some even said that their friend that lives in London sees the kind of nose mask that she is using, so she has to order for it because she wants to look trendy and the rest of it. So the conclusion is that though dress has witnessed some changes since the colonial era, the changes will still continue under Western influences in the post-colonial era, and then the new dress order through the use of face and nose masks has suddenly redefined fashion as well as its budget in the Osun state with the emergence of the current epidemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that interesting presentation, Oluwadara Fakunle. So we move on to the fourth and last presentation, which is titled Social Burden of Women Living with Uterine Fibroid by Ayoola Fakunle. Please, you have the floor. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm Ayoola Fakunle, so I'll be presenting a paper on the social burden of women living with uterine fibroid. So I'll be walking us through what uterine fibroid is, the social context of uterine fibroid, and how women living with this fibroid have actually been surviving over time. So yeah, what uterine fibroid? Uterine fibroid is the major tumor found in the pelvic organ of women. It most times an abnormality in the muscular tissue caused by overproduction of extracellular tissues. And most times over time, this abnormality can become cancerous. Studies have shown that patients living with uterine fibroid are mostly older women 45 and above who has had at least 2 live births. But over the years, we found that this narrative has changed. We found that younger women now presenting with uterine fibroid within 26 to 30 years old. And most times people who have symptomatic fibroids present with a particular type of symptom. Sometimes it ranges from abdominal mass, discomfort, heavy menstrual bleeding, pelvic pain, hemorrhage, infertility. Sometimes some reproductive consequences are like early pregnancy loss, delivery complications, and even the chances and risks of having a cesarean section. Most times, so I'm going to capitalize the problem. The problem starts with the time of presentation of uterine fibroid. So I'm saying that there's a time when uterine fibroid is supposed to be presented at the clinic. So it's either you present late for checkup, either you present late for diagnosis, or you present late for treatment. And at this point, it's really attributed to the poor health seeking behavior of women majorly found in sub-Saharan Africa. And the problem sets in when these women start to experience infertility or subfertility, and their social identity is threatened because of the large importance placed on children, the value placed on children in this climb. And most times treatment of uterine fibroid and fertility issues generally are mostly cultural and religious. And so there are a lot of cultural undertones behind these ailments that makes women venture into different forms of treatments, not seeking the orthodox ways. And this really causes a problem for them. So this was a cross-sectional study, and at identifying the problem, I spoke about late presentation. So for the purpose of this study, late presentation is any presentation that is 6 months or above of symptom manifestation. So from the point when you started having your symptoms, 6 months less, if you presented at the hospital, you are presented early, but if you presented above 6 months of your symptom manifestation, then you have presented late. So this study found that most women presented with uterine fibroid within the ages of 30 to 39, and older women presented later than younger women. So women less than 30 actually presented their ailments at the hospital for checkup early, while older women from the ages of 40 and above presented late. And majority of women were married. Let's take into consideration marriage. So because we find that nowadays young people get married at a very younger age, so which explains the time and the age at which most people present this ailment. And very interesting, even though women presented their ailments late, they sought treatment very early, because at that point they were already married women looking for solutions to one form of problem or the other, which majorly is attributed to children. And now the study found that the reasons why most women presented late was because of aversion to surgery, negligence, and finance. So aversion to surgery for a single woman, the fear of carrying out a surgery and having a scar that could affect the potentials or chances of getting married, you know, for a potential spouse who sees a scar on your tummy and then thinks that you don't have a womb again, it could be frightening for single women who would then begin to worry about presenting at the hospital. So they try to like seek other alternative measures. Negligence was also a reason why women presented late. You know, the major symptom that most women had was heavy menstrual bleeding. And we've all attributed heavy menstrual bleeding to the general women's problem, which when some people even have heavy flows, they just classify it as a general thing, and then not knowing that you're supposed to actually present this for a checkup to be sure that you don't have uterine fibroid. And also finance was another issue, because women already classified, because I conducted this study at UCH, so women already classified that once they go to UCH for a checkup, it always comes with these exorbitant bills and all of that. So this made them delay presentation. Now the study found out that, interestingly, most of these women that presented late, they preferred to talk to their immediate family members and not their in-laws, because the in-laws place this kind of subtle pressure on them. And it's always like, okay, you are married now, okay, what is happening, what is causing the delay, has it happened? They understood that they cared for them, you know, family members cared. That was why they were, you know, giving constant checkups. But the intention at the end of the day was not always taken well, you know, it was not always perceived well, because it's either, okay, you are reaching out to me because you're expecting a grandchild or you're expecting children. However, their own immediate family of orientation was very welcoming about the idea. They even told them about their procedures, ran them through all the processes, unlike their in-laws. And then some spouses perceive their husbands as, some women perceive their husbands as very selfish, you know, lacking understanding, especially for people from polygamous homes. I remember somebody I interviewed, she said at the beginning of the journey, you know, when they got married at the 8th year, she was already currently on her 8th year marriage and no child. And the husband was actually concerned from the beginning, and he kept following her from place to place, trying to look for solutions and all of that. But at some point, he just became nonchalant. And she attributed this majorly because he had children from other women, you know, he already had children. So at that point, he even like bothered less about if she had a child for him or not. So she was left with that burden. And then at the point when she was even coming to UCH, he wasn't aware anymore of her treatment and diagnosis and also the care. So most times this also led to separation from spouses. So being that some women think their spouses perceive this as a nonchalant and not understanding, it causes a strain in the communication, because the men want children. Some of them perceive the women as, okay, being the one with the problem, and then, you know, this caused a strain, and then for some people it's led to separation. Some spouses were, however, supportive. You know, some spouses understood that it was not their wives that were like the cause of this ailment, and it could happen to anyone. It was not like you lived a wayward life like some people perceived, and then you were like, it's just an abnormal growth that could happen to anyone. So some spouses were supportive. And very interesting is that even for the spouses that were supportive, it didn't mean that there were no low moments in the union, you know. So for some women, for instance, the problem was with the woman and not with her spouse. So the man is understanding of the fact that, okay, we have this problem, we are trying to deal with it internally as a nuclear family, but the woman is having a lot of mental problem because she wants a child, and then the family pressure is there on one hand. So the woman is always feeling like it always affected sexual intercourse, because pain during sexual intercourse is a symptom of uterine fibroid. And then because the woman is feeling so much pain and trying several times to conceive, there is no interest, there's no drive to have sexual intercourse with your spouse. And you know, this always causes a strain even for supportive spouses. Now for friends and families, like friends and families where some friends perceived it as a bad omen. Like someone said she had friends who thought she had a spiritual husband, you know, and that was hindering her from conceiving for her physical husband. And you know, it's also related to some churches. She attributed that there were times in her church when they had to do prayers for this, and they were mentioning spiritual husbands and all of that. So this really affected her social interactions, and she started to disassociate herself from her friends. Yes. So, and then for some family members, they would sometimes recommend that you make use of traditional herbs and, you know, to shrink the fibroid. And you notice that these women, even though most of them had tertiary education, they still made use of all these herbs and things to shrink. But they found that they still ended up coming back to the hospital, because these traditional herbs don't actually shrink. They don't work in that regard. You still need like to follow a normal procedure, and either get a myomectomy or an hysterectomy if you have children already. So I would recommend in conclusion that there's more outreach and sensitization to be done. You know, everyone knows about, to an extent, people know about fibroid, but the symptoms that we all see, especially the heavy menstrual bleeding, everybody just assumes it to be the normal woman problem. But there should be enough sensitization about this ailment so that people can present early to the hospital before time of conception. The government and other bodies need to also subsidize the cost of treatment, as finance was a major challenge for women to present at the hospital. Now, we should also implement preconception clinics, you know, where intending couples could visit for evaluations, you know, for body checkup before the time of conception, so that it doesn't cause a strain in the union. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ayola Fatmoju, for that interesting presentation. So we will be moving straight into the question and answer section. I can see one or two in the chat.
Please, can we turn on our video for a group photo, please? Turn on your video for a group photo, please. Everyone, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, I got that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think the chat has been closed or okay. Let me see. Okay, yeah. Someone is asking about COVID-19. Okay. Okay, so let me begin with the first presenter. The question is from Shola Ayondele. Are there other factors responsible for academic performance and mental extraneous variables? Do you offer any counseling service to those adolescents with poor mental health? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there are other factors that are responsible for mental health in adolescents. Factors like environmental factors and also social status. So you could even have a situation where both couples are together, both parents are together and the whole family together, but then we still have cases where there are these excessive anxiety and depression, as the case may be. So there are other factors. Environmental factors are there too, and the social status is also there. Then I was able to offer counseling, although it was a general thing. I didn't do one-on-one counseling because there were pretty many, so I had to generalize it in case some of them who are already having such symptoms but that cannot really place their hands to what exactly it is. So I was able to talk to them, talk to teachers, talk to administrators, on the need to be wary of these symptoms so that they can receive timely help, because basically these are treatable. They are treatable. They are actually treatable. They are things that can be handled. Thank you.
Okay, so but just to restate the question, I didn't get if you mentioned how you control for those other variables in your study.
What happened? Okay, the questionnaires were tailored mainly for mental health, variables of mental health. So most of the questions and the items were, focusing on addressing mental health determinants, strictly on that. So that was how I was able to control for the other extraneous variables. Thank you.
Okay, there's another question by the same person. What method? Okay, this has to do with COVID-19, and I'm not sure if it's directed at Oluwadara or Tolulope. Okay, it says, what method did you use to collect the data? Was it quantitative or qualitative?
Is the question directed to me?
That's for Tolulope.
Okay. Can you hear me? Hello?
Please go ahead.
All right, okay. It's qualitative. Essentially a synthesis paper. That's my simple answer to the question.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let me direct, I have a number of questions. Let me direct this to Oluwadara. Okay, I found your presentation very interesting, and yeah, it's I'm interested in knowing if you try to correlate maybe the idea of fashion, if it is a motivation for people to comply with the COVID-19 protocols. Did you get that?
Okay. Yes. I got to.
Okay.
That was exactly, that's part of what I am looking at. How not that in the first instance when it all started, people were carried away with being fashionable about the nose mask, but in the process, people began to use that opportunity
to look fashionable, even with the nose mask. Look at, for instance, I think I have a billboard. There is this billboard in Ikire that I saw of a politician, a woman, who on the billboard, she had the nose mask. The nose mask was the same Ankara or the same clothing material that she used for the nose mask is the same that goes with is the same thing she's wearing. So it's not like people are so desperate about this thing, but people are just making use of the opportunity of the COVID-19 to even look more fashionable. They wouldn't want something that will, of course, desocialize them. Some might even be in their house, probably as a result of the lockdown, and they will still keep taking pictures of themselves, and they didn't go anywhere. They'll still be taking pictures of themselves with what they are wearing, the kind of nose mask. Yes, I that trends a lot, and then they want to look like, it's a global issue. Yes, the COVID-19 is a global issue that affected other international countries. So this particular trend of looking fashionable also goes with what those people are wearing, the kind of nose masks they are using, and then they also they also start to use it. Then some even want to use the expensive ones, like the surgical nose masks. That they want to portray that they have the money, it doesn't affect them, and the rest of it. So the pandemic is just the epidemic rather is just an opportunity to display fashion.
And what would you say about people who say the COVID-19 pandemic further exaggerates the divide between the rich and the poor? In terms
yes, of course, in relation to what I discussed, yes, it does. While some people will just while some people in the first instance cannot even afford the 100 naira nose mask, because at first it was 50 naira. I can remember that medical nose mask, that normal, that disposable one. I can remember before the COVID-19, anytime I visit Abuja, then maybe during Harmattan season or during cold weather, I do buy this nose mask. It's 20 naira. But with the COVID-19 now, first of all, it moved to 50 naira. And then when it moved to 100 naira, a lot of people could not afford it. I have experienced some people using scarf to cover their nose, even up till now, because they couldn't. When you get to the entrance of the hospital, like Ashubiaro in Oshogbo, they will send you back to go and get a nose mask. Some will be begging. So there is a lot, and while some will go to the extent of getting every day, some will keep getting it. Like you go to the bank today, you forgot it at home, you buy another one. What some will beg, it's actually create a kind of division between the rich and the poor. While some will even use the most expensive one, like those ordering and the rest of it.
Thank you.
I hope I answered your question, sir. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Now, this question is for Tolulope. So you gave us a very interesting presentation on the COVID-19 pandemic in Africa and how everyone was surprised that the African continent was not hit as they expected. Now, my question is, what is your end point? By that, I mean, what did you use to, what was the basis of the map that you showed us? Was it based on the incidence of COVID-19 or the number of sick people or the number of deaths? Is it still there? Okay, if it's not there, then let me move on to, okay, I have a question here in the chat. Tolu is asking, Okay. He's asking Ayola. If uterine fibroid can be orchestrated by malevolent powers. If so, to what extent can Yoruba traditional medicine contain this? I'm not sure if your study covers that, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone who has been speaking so far. Interesting presentation, Oluwadara. Yes, so to answer this question, firstly, yeah, so my study was to just understand the concerns of women, how they live through their marriages, and for single people, how the scenario is within them, and then prospects for spouses and the likes. But so from what I found out, uterine fibroid, it is an abdominal growth. It's an abnormal growth, rather. It's anyone can have fibroid. So it's not like one witch or wizard is or womb watcher is instigating anything on you. So uterine fibroid is purely medical, and it's just a growth. So it grows in the uterus, or sometimes it can be outside the uterus in some cases. There are different locations that the uterine fibroid can be positioned. Sometimes it can be between the wall. There are some medical terms. I wouldn't want to go into sciences right now, but uterine fibroid is a growth. It's when the muscular tissue grows abnormally. So it's just like the way we have some people that are giving birth to with some kind of deformity. So it's just an abnormal growth. So no malevolent powers. And so about traditional medicine, interestingly, all the women I interviewed in my study, at some point or the other, I think 70% of them had used traditional medicine, but they still found themselves back to UCH to follow the right procedure. That means, I shouldn't say, I'm not categorically saying that traditional medicine does not work, but I am saying that the women I interviewed still came back for a myomectomy. So we can just have a deduction.
Now, let me just take you up on that. In your, when you gave reasons why there were delayed presentations, you mentioned the number of factors, maybe because people have wasted time trying about preparations and all of that. Okay. What about failed medical interventions as well? Poor outcomes of surgeries where people do myomectomy, and then there are complications and deaths. So we need to factor that in and actually discuss that.
Okay, there. Thank you very much, sir. So I spoke to gynecologists as well, and it was clearly said that doing a myomectomy is not saying that you will conceive. So if you have uterine fibroid and you go through that procedure, they are not telling you 100% that you will conceive. They are just saying that this growth is there. If we remove it, it can increase your chances of. Do you understand? So they are still other.
So I'm talking about by poor outcomes. I do not even mean whether the person eventually conceives or not. I'm talking of women who die after the surgery, yes, or women who develop other serious complications. That don't you, or couldn't that also be a discouraging factor, or even the main one that women get to hear about that stops them from going for medical procedures?
Panecha, if I can corroborate that, sorry, if I can corroborate what you just said, sir. I'm trying to do a kind of comparative analysis of the traditional Medicare and the modern one. Orthodox. Are you saying that? Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you saying that traditional medicine at all, while the modern medicine works. That is the hospital, the one given by UCH. Are you saying, based on your interview, or you had this science, this modern science mind when you were going for the interview, that definitely in UCH, it works for them, while maybe you're having a kind of discouraging, I don't know how to put it now. Yes, a kind of discouraging mind against the traditional medicine. So now comparing the two, can you say that the modern medicine works better than the traditional?
Okay, so like I've said already, right? Like, so people use herbs. Herbs works, you know, traditional medicine work for different reasons at different times. But there is no scientific, or there is no statistics to show that this amount of or this portion, or this dosage of this medicine will lead to an XYZ% in the shrinkage or reduction in the size of the fibroid. However, for the procedures at the hospital, they have been statistically proven, and there are also results of chances of, you know, total completion or removal of it, or reduction, and then it doesn't grow. Although sometimes it also grows. So we just have to place a balance, because it's not like the orthodox is like saying that you've had it once, you do a surgery and it's gone. At times it also comes back again, you know, it grows again. So it's just trying to follow. I just focused my study on the one that I could, like, you know, there were facts, and then it could be, you know, tested.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that brilliant response. Well, I think I have Tolulope back now. So before I ask you the questions I have, let me go back to Dr. Jane Akinyemi. I was going to ask, how did you define academic performance? Did you define it strictly as a outcome of examinations, or school attendance? So how did you, or which of these did you use as criteria?
Yeah, because I work closely with the teachers as well. So the examinations is part of it, and also test examinations, and then the participation in the classroom. Participation in the classroom also was factored.
Okay, of the
have I responded? Yes.
Yes.
Examination, yeah, test and examination.
Okay.
And then I also did some interview, you know, with some of the, you know, try to interview some of the students, and then a lot of things came up during the interview. You hear some of them tell you they can just sit down and they dream away endlessly. You know, sometimes they say things like, it's like there is no outside world. School work is always been really hard, especially when you've lost your attention after 5 minutes. So that attention is an issue with them. Lack of attention. Yes, attention deficit. Yes, it takes forever. That's what some of them said. Some of them said the consequences is that sometimes for them to come back again, you know, to where they were or where they had left before they tuned off, is usually tough.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. So why the selection of Ogun Central for your study?
Okay, the selection, I think for proximity's sake too. I don't live very far from, I live around that area, so it helped me. Yeah.
Okay, I think I got that. So back to Tolulope, you welcome back. Okay, I was going to ask you. There's a question I wrote. Maybe you didn't capture that, for Ayola. I was asking the relationship between uterine fibroid and
early onset of menopause. You know, some people will tell you because of uterine fibroid, they bleed a lot. There's a lot of bleeding. So usually you find some people tell you they started the menopause process began at 40, some 42, and then they kind of want to attribute it to uterine fibroid. So what's the relationship, Ayola? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So that's very interesting because, you know, a gynecologist actually in the discussion made reference to that. Although the body differs, you know, I met somebody that was 46 and she was still like very active. She had not hit menopause, and in fact, the percentage of blood she loses, like her bleeding was so severe. But even at that old age, like she was already like 46, she was not yet hitting menopause. So most times late conception and the development of fibroid is not okay. So I would like your body sometimes does not react to, it's not because you release a lot of blood that you hit menopause faster. I don't know if that answers you.
Yes, thank you.
Although in some cases, the gynecologists have actually mentioned that in some cases, for some women who originally maybe hereditary, it's hereditary to hit menopause at an early age.
Okay.
It could be, yes, it could be a propelling factor to it if they already have like occurrences of hitting menopause early in their family.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So I was going to ask, is he still there? I think we lost him again. Okay, I'm just holding on a bit if we connect. Okay, well, I think we'll have to be rounding up if it's not joining us anytime soon. So let me just give you an opportunity, beginning with Dr. Jane Akemi, to wrap up with your final words regarding your presentation in a minute. Hello?
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that the parents should be more enlightened on the need to endeavor to stay together in harmony, you know, as husband and wife. A lot of issues actually come up in marriage, but then for the sake of these children, I believe there are no situations that cannot be actually handled if they are appropriately appropriately channeled to the right people for counseling. So there should be that enlightenment for parents. So I usually recommend for intending couples, you know, to go for counseling, before marriage. All of these things will be taken care of at that stage of their, as they prepare for marriage, in order to, so that they can discourage things like mental health, poor academic performance, and eventual school dropout of their world. We have a lot of school dropouts out there, so many of them out there, and all attributed to broken homes most of the time. So we can actually do something about this.
Thank you very much. Let me move on to Oluwade Fabio.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll round up. I saw someone's question, and I'll quickly answer that and round up.
Okay.
On the male, or on the male and the female gender. The reason why I'm not being particular about the gender is that I'm not a gender person. I don't do gender, but I try to consider both male and female. But most times, we often say we see the female gender as agents of fashion. They are the ones that have this particular mindset of being fashionable. They are following. But in the part of the male counterpart, we can be talking about the wealth, the display of wealth, how well you are to purchase an expensive nose mask. Why some does not even care at all? So it's from the part the female than the male based on the interview and questionnaire. And finally, I would take care on the pictures. Yes, of course, it's the pictures are there for future references, because we're talking about 50 years from the 19 pandemic will still be mentioned in the world. So what I try to do in my work is to look at how these people got their mask, then their preferences in getting the mask, the impact of this mask on their expenses. Is it an extra expense, or are they not affected? And finally, the social impact of this of the pandemic or helping on people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ayola.
Yeah, thank you very much. So there's briefly a question about age and sexuality. So now we found that younger people are having uterine fibroids. From 26 years old, we're having uterine fibroid. So it's majorly mostly because of your diet. Now there's a change in diet. That's why the older generation in time past were having we're being diagnosed like 45 and above, like I earlier said. But now, because of change in diet, you find that younger people and other factors as well. But change in diet was one thing that I found out from the gynecologists. Yes, so lastly, to just wrap up, I just say that more sensitization, things that ladies take trivially, like especially the heavy menstrual bleeding, like more sensitization on these things, because it affects you in like few years to come when you're ready for marriage and when you're ready to have children. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your concluding remarks. And I think we've had very interesting conversations around the various topics. And I actually appreciate the fact that all the panelists were attentive, and you were able to engage one another's presentations in a constructive manner as well. So on that note, I think I can declare this session concluded. My name is Opeyemi Akindele. I'm an independent scholar, and I thank you all for being a part of this panel.
Well done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well done. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Night.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.